Okay, so we would like to dedicate this class in loving memory of Yisrael Menachem Ben Chaim Yehoshua, sponsored by Mrs. Suri Katz, and in loving memory of Basha Bas Shraga Tzvi, sponsored by Mrs. Gitti Klein, or Neshama Shavan Aliyah. It should be a good to better for their families and for all of us, for all Klal Yisrael, to bring the Gula immediately. Okay, so we're in Parshas Toldos, and usually when we learn Chumash, we read the pasuk, and right away we go to Rashi, we go to the Mefarshim to understand it. But we're going to try something else. We're going to just read the psukim without Rashi, without any Mefarshim, to see what the literal, what the psukim are saying literally. So, and it's very, very important because when we went to preschool and beyond, we learned that Yaakov is the tzaddik and Esav is the rasha. But if you're reading the psukim without any explanations, any interpretations, you don't see a very wicked Esav. The first pasuk, Ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham. These are the children, these are the offspring of Yitzchak, the son of Avram. What does it say? Ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak. These are the offspring of Yitzchak. Although I said that we're not going to go into Rashi, just 1 second. Yaakov ve'Esav. Yaakov and Esav ha'amurim ba'parsha, who are spoken of further on in this passage. There's a way of Yaakov and Esav that is in the parsha. There's an ideal way for Esav to be that's not the rasha that we were taught about since preschool. There's a Yaakov and an Esav. There's an Esav according to the Torah. That's a whole different picture of the Esav that we learned about in preschool. And if you look at the psukim, all you see is, what do you see? Rivka couldn't have children, and Yitzchak and Rivka daven to Hashem. And then what happens? Rivka becomes pregnant. You see by Yisroitetzu habanim b'kirba that the children are by Yisroitetzu comes from the word larut, to run. Each one is running in a different direction. And she's in so much pain, so she goes to find out what's going on. And she is told that there are 2 nations in her womb. 2 regimes from her insides shall be separated, and 1 regime shall become strong from the other regime, and the elder shall serve the younger. And then she gives birth, and she has twins, and the first one is Esav. And then comes the next one holding on to Esav's heel comes Yaakov. And then what does it say? Pasuk Chav Zayin. Vayigdelu hane'arim. The lads grew up. Vayihi Esav ish yedei tzayid ish sadeh. And Esav became a man who knows trapping, a man of the field. Yaakov ishtam yeshev ayhalin, and Yaakov was a wholesome man, abiding in tents. Then it says Yitzchak loved Esav, for trapping was in his mouth, but Rivka loved Yaakov. And then we have the whole thing with the soup. Esav comes in, he's starving, hungry, and he's so tired. And he wants the soup, and Yaakov says, sell me the firstborn, then I'll give you the soup. So just from the psukim, without going into Rashi, it seems like we don't see that Esav is wicked or bad. As a matter of fact, if I'm hungry and I come to your house and I say, can I have some soup, or can I have a piece of sushi? Then you're going to tell me, oh, I'll only give you the sushi if you sign this document that your house and your car and your second house, all that belongs to me. Who's being unfair over here? And Yaakov is the one. Yaakov is the one that's making so much trouble. He comes out holding on to Esav's heel. And then what happens? Then comes the Bechira. Then Yitzchak wants to bless his sons. And what happens? Yaakov and his mother, they deceive Esav so Yaakov should get the blessings. So who really seems, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? As a matter of fact, when after Yaakov receives the blessings and Esav comes and realizes that he was tricked. I have to find the pasuk. Okay, Yitzchak tells him to go and get and prepare delicacies for me, which is also another question. Yitzchak is so old, and he was so holy, and what is he asking for? To make delicacies for me, such as I love, and bring it to me so I could eat it. It seems a little bit funny that this big tzaddik is asking for delicacies, and he needed more than one. How much meat could he eat? It's plural. And then what happens is Rivka overhears it, and she takes two goats. She's preparing two goats as if Yaakov could eat two goats. And then she puts on the skin onto Yaakov's hands. He comes to his father, and he gets there before Esav. And what happens? Yaakov gets the blessings. And then, after he's done, Esav comes. He also made food for his father. And Yitzchak says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm your firstborn son." And it says, in Yitzchak trembled, a great trembling. And he said, "Who? Where is he, the one who caught game and brought it to me? And I ate of all when you had not yet come, and I blessed him. He shall also be blessed." So at first, it seems like Yitzchak's angry, but then he says, no, Yaakov, he got the brachas, let him be blessed. And then what happens? Kishmaya Esav as divrei Aviv, when Esav hears this, vayitzak tzaka g'dayla umara ad ma'id. He cried out an exceedingly great and bitter cry. He said to his father, "Bless me too, Father." So the Torah doesn't usually tell us about the emotions that people are feeling. And here the Torah wants you to feel his pain, Esav's pain. He was supposed to get the brachas, and the birthright was taken from him. Yaakov, he had to struggle to be born first. Then the birthright gets taken from him. All he wanted was some soup. And then the brachas are taken from him. And he is this child. You pasha feel rachmanis for him. And there's nowhere in the words of the pasuk and the pshat do you see that he's a murderer and all the other terrible things that we find in the Mefarshim.
Doesn't it say he loves to whatever his side? Yeah.
Oh, so all it says that he's a hunter. It does say that he's a hunter. We're going to understand what that means. But it's very important to just go back to the basics and to read the psukim as they are, to understand that there is that the title of this class is I give a different title because but after learning it, now I understand the title from Project of the Sichos, which is the ideal Esav. There is an ideal Esav. It didn't come into actuality, but there is a certain potential of Esav that Esav could have been, that's far different from the Russia that we have in our mind. Okay, so let's go back to the pasuk. So what does it say? Vayigdelu hana'arim. The boys grew up. What does that mean?
Doctor know that Esav had the qualities. We know that. He was on a higher level than. So I came a little late, because what's the question? What don't I know?
Okay, so we're gonna understand, what does it mean? What does it mean? Esav was greater than Yaakov. What does that mean? If you're already at that level where you know already that ultimately Esav is greater than Yaakov, we're gonna understand what that means in depth. Okay, so we're holding V'yigdalu Hana'arim. Listen to this. This is Rashi. All the while that they were small, they were not distinguishable in their deeds, in their behavior, and nobody could discern in them what their nature was. Once they turned 13 years old, this one set out for the house of Torah study, and the other one set out for idolatry. So until they were 13 years old, Esav was a perfect little angel, just like his brother Yaakov, and you couldn't even tell the difference between them. Very important information. Ooh, except for in the womb. Okay, excellent. Okay, so now we're going to ask our. Okay, so first let's establish. Excellent. Hold it for 1 second. That's going to be our question. First, let's establish that Vayigdalu Hana'arim, the Vayigdalu Hana'arim, and the lads grew up. Okay, so there's Yalkut Shemaini. Yalkut Shemaini says that the boys grew up. It doesn't just mean that they got taller, that they matured physically, but they matured spiritually. And Yalkut Shemaini says that Esav was included, and Esav also grew spiritually. But then through his deeds, he became corrupt. And how do we know this? Because the word Vayigdalu Hana'arim, that's the clue that they grew up spiritually, because there's another verse that says, the great man among the giants, and the great refers to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we know that the word great means that they grew spiritually. So Esav also grew spiritually. But then because of his deeds, he became corrupt. That's the Yalkut Shemaini. Then comes the Zayar, and the Zayar is even more explicit. And he says, the boys grew, it refers to spiritual maturity. What happened? The influence of Avraham caused them to mature spiritually, and his merit helped them. And Avram would educate them in the observance of mitzvahs, including Yaakov and Esav. Avram was the grandfather. He influenced both of them, both Yaakov and Esav, and he taught them to do mitzvahs, and they actually did mitzvahs. That's what the Zayar says. According to the Yalkut Shemaini, you could argue and you could say that with difficulty, you could say that when it says that the boys grew, Esav only had the potential to become spiritually mature. But according to the Zayar spells it out for us. There's no two ways about it, that Esav became spiritually mature to the extent that he actually performed mitzvahs. He was educated in mitzvahs, and that is what the Zayar says. So now comes Suri's question. But how could we say? How could we say that Esav became spiritually mature if we know that already in his mother's womb he was already inclined, he was already gravitated to the idol worship? So if we learned in preschool if we learned in preschool that every time the Rivka went by a church, although Christianity didn't exist yet, but it must have been whatever pagan house of worship that there existed, that he was gravitating to. So if he's gravitating towards idol worship in the womb, how can you say that when he was 13 he became spiritually mature? And not only that, but in the pasuk, like Bela said, in the pasuk it says after Vayigdalu Hana'arim, how does it express itself that the boys grew up? What does it say? It says that Esav became a hunter, and Yaakov sat and learned Torah. So the way the spiritual maturity expresses itself is that Esav is a hunter. What kind of spiritual maturity is that? That's a twofold question. A, on the word vayigdalu, how could you say that he grew spiritually if from the womb he was already inclined to avodah zarah? And B, if you're gonna say that if you are going to say that he did grow spiritually, matured spiritually, then why does it say that he became a hunter, which is the opposite? Okay. How can we say that they grew refers to spiritual maturity? So we're going to try to answer it, and then we're going to knock it. The answer we're going to try to say is that in the fetus, right? That the fetus in the womb is taught the entire Torah, right? And then what happens? Right before birth, the angel comes and strikes the newborn on the mouth, and then he forgets everything. Because if the fetus didn't forget the Torah, then he wouldn't have free choice. So in the same way, yes, Asa was inclined to avodah zarah, but before he was born, he forgot about it. So he should have free choice. And then once he was born, Avraham, his grandfather, educated him, and the education took full effect, and he did become spiritually mature. But this explanation is inadequate. Why? Because the fact that Esav gravitated to avodah zarah in his mother's womb, that did leave an impression on him. Even though you say once the baby is born, he forgets what happened in the womb, it does leave an impression. And he was naturally inclined to idol worship when he became an adult. As the Zohar says, that when he got older, he turned to idol worship as a result of it being the place that suited him, since he was inclined toward idol worship from his mother's womb. And this is similar to how it is in holiness. Yes, the baby forgets all the Torah that it learned in its mother's womb. However, it does leave an impression on the baby, and therefore, when the baby grows up, he is drawn towards Torah because there is a lasting impression from what he learned through the angel in the mother's womb. So just like there is a lasting impression for the fetus that learns Torah in its mother's womb, there was a lasting impression for Esav from being inclined to avodah zarah in his mother's womb. And what do you want from him? What do you want from him? If you have a lion and you have a sheep, are you going to say the sheep is a tzaddik and the lion is a rasha? That is its nature. That's how it's born. What do you want from them? There's nature and there's nurture. Okay, fine, but this isn't just a story of Yaakov and Esav. This is our story. This is the story of our children. This is the story of our grandchildren. Hashem did not create all people to be the same, to all fit into a cookie cutter box. I was listening to, there's many classes on this teaching. Listen to Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. He said his son was in yeshiva. He asked his son, how is the yeshiva? So he said, it's very good. Welcome. He said, the yeshiva is very good. He says, why is it very good? He says, because by my nature, I happen to fit into the box. So therefore, the yeshiva is very good. But if I didn't fit into the box, then oh boy, would I have a hard time.
Okay. I already went through all this stuff. I'm thinking baby inside, nature, nurture.
But doesn't that, isn't it essentially still taking away the choice?
Yeah, thank you for saying what I was saying.
This is the question. You have a mother and a father, and they have Kanain a large family, and are all the children the same? No. You have one child that's ready for school, dressed with the homework done an hour before the bus comes, and for 12 years you never get a phone call from the principal. And then there's another child who you're waiting for one day that you won't get a phone call from the principal. The child who every single day misses the bus, and you have to drive them to school.
God could find them, but at the end of the day, they're still who they are. It's not up to us.
It's not up to us. We
I can only contribute.
okay, so before we go to our children, even ourselves, we can't control our nature. Some of us have big struggles in certain areas. Some of us, for those areas, have no struggle at all. We don't choose our nature. We don't choose our children's nature. We don't choose our husband's nature. We think we do.
Change it. I just wonder what can bring up the Boston.
Okay, so we have to understand that there's no mistakes over here. And Hashem, to expect that everyone should fit into a certain mold is actually not, it's so far from what Hashem wants. That's not what Hashem wants.
So parents are not sort of fit into that mold, when we know that that mold is good for them spiritually, physically, emotionally.
Okay, so we're going to see.
The mold is very big. We try to put them in a small. Fine. The box is very big. We try to put them in a small box of the systems. That's the problem. That is the problem. The focus for everybody, but our system is the problem.
We're going to see what is true. What if you want to get a scale and start measuring, we're going to actually see that those that are out of the box actually are even more connected to holiness than those that are in the box. Just by the way. Okay. Question number 2. Okay, so we're going to ask 3 questions and then we're going to go backwards to answer them. So the first question is, what do you want from Esav? It said it says that they grew up spiritually. How can you say that he grew up spiritually if he was already inclined to have a desire from his mother's womb? And don't tell me that he forgot about it, because it left an impression on him, and that was his nature. And what do you want from him? This is his nature. That's question number 1. So I know sometimes we have a lot of questions and then we forget the first question. By the time we're up to the 3rd question. So we're just going to say, we're just going to have key words to help us remember the questions. Question number 1 is all about vayigdalu, about this growing up, maturing, and the concept of Isha that he becomes, that he actually, it actually says that he became a hunter. So this is his nature. Then if maturing spiritually is expressed in being a hunter, then how can you say that he actually grew spiritually, matured spiritually, if A, he's a hunter, and B, from the womb already, he was inclined. This was his nature. What do you want from him? That's question number 1.
But he also lived with his father.
He also lived with his father. Yeah.
So that had an impression on him.
So there's nature and there's nurture. Yes, he was nurtured. He was nurtured by his father and by his grandfather. Until the age of 13, you couldn't tell, as Rashi says, you couldn't even tell the difference between Esav and Yaakov, because they were both doing mitzvahs and perfect behavior. So yes, that is the nurture, but then what about the nature?
What does nature mean for you? What exactly do you mean?
The way Hashem created him.
So there's 2 parts, the Hashem and the him, or the her. It's not the mother, father.
Hashem, the one nature that Hashem gave Esav.
Hashem looking at where he created you, where you could go, versus like us looking at the box in the system.
Right?
Like if you compare Yaakov and Esau, then yeah, Yaakov was sitting and learning, and Esau may have been hunting, but maybe for him, that was
his path. Esav's path to connect with Hashem was not through sitting in a tent and learning Torah. He had a path to reach. He had a path to holiness, to reach Hashem, to connect to Hashem, and it was a different path, because Hashem created him with a different kind of nature. And we have to celebrate it instead of smash it.
Smother it or- Okay, yeah, I hear that. I hear that very much.
Now, what does that mean in the Parsha? Where it says that Rivka loves Yaakov and Yitzchak loves Esau. That's all this means.
Okay, so you know what? We're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that.
Rivka loved Yaakov and what?
Yitzchak loved Esav and Rivka loved Yaakov.
Sometimes parents can handle certain kids and sometimes they can't.
Okay,
They
okay,
love them both.
okay, but you know what?
Then
We're gonna at the end, I promise, at the end, if you could hold on, we're gonna change that perspective as well. Okay. Remind me if I forget. Okay. Next question. The fact that they fought in the womb. So one opinion is that the fact that they each one was when Rivka passed a shul, a yeshiva, Yaakov was kicking. And when she passed the place of idol worship, Esav was kicking. In addition to that, there's another explanation for what does it mean by Yisrael Tzitzu. It means that they were fighting, they were quarreling. What are they fighting about? You know what they were fighting about? There was a struggle and a conflict between Yaakov and Esav over the inheritance of the two worlds, of this world and the world to come. And the question is, what are you fighting about? Doesn't Esav want this world and Yaakov wants Olam Haba? If there's two,
predestined.
I am saying that it's predestined, yes. So if it's predestined and Esav is inclined to have a desire into physical things into this world, then what is he fighting for Olam Haba? And if Yaakov's all predestined for Olam Haba for sitting in the yeshiva, what does he need Olam Hazeh for? What are they fighting?
Maybe they were both fighting for the same thing.
They are both fighting the same thing, and that's the question. If you have two kids, one wants potato chips and one wants cookies. Simple solution. You get the cookies, you get the chips. But what's happening here is that both kids want both. They both want, each kid wants the chips and the cookies. They're both fighting for both. What's the fight? What's fight? Seemingly, Esav should want this world and be satisfied. Yaakov should want the Olam Haba and be satisfied. Then what do you have to fight about? The question number two is, why would Esav, the wicked one, desire the world to come?
I think we only know that he was wicked after he was born.
We know that he was. We know that he was wicked or inclined to avodah zarah from before he was born, from his mother in his mother's womb.
But this the one to shame and he told her what's going on. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just feel so bad now for Asa, you're all gonna kill me. I just do, because I'm thinking of like today's children and doing that, I'm like, hello.
That's exactly how you're supposed to feel. That's the point. That's the point.
We're
And that's why.
predestining them,
I'm sure you're there right
basically.
now.
You're already
I-
saying this is what they're gonna be.
And that's why it says in the pasuk where the Torah doesn't really show emotion. The Torah doesn't tell you how every character felt. The Torah tells you he screamed a loud and bitter scream. It was he freaked out. It was terrible. How could it be that his brother just took the brachas from him? Your mother, your brother, they're supposed to protect you. You're supposed to trust them. His own mother and his own brother deceived him. Yeah.
That's not hard. The wife and the husband.
Okay, but so far,
It's father.
so far from the Torah, okay, it said he was a hunter. It said he was a hunter, but it doesn't say in the words of the Torah. The only thing that it says is that Esav had two wives and his parents weren't happy about it. Well, guess what? There are a lot of marriages that exist, and the shviger, right, might not be happy with the son-in-law or the daughter-in-law, and the marriages still survive. So just because Yitzchak and Rivka weren't happy, the Shver and the Shviga weren't happy with the daughters-in-law, from the words of the pasuk, you don't see that he was that he served the Zara and he was idolatry and adultery. You don't see it. Okay, third question. Okay, so now question number one is Vayigdalu. Question number two is Olam, the world, Olam Haba. Question number 3 is, the key word is Merkava. Merkava means a chariot. Who are we talking about? We're talking about the Avos. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They had humility. 100% humility. They were a Merkava, a chariot for God. You know what a chariot is? A chariot doesn't have a will of its own. The car, you get into your car. The car doesn't say, I want to go here and you go there. There's no discussion. You take the car wherever you want to go. The car has no say in the matter. The same thing is with the Avos. All of their limbs were a makava, were a vehicle only to the divine will, their entire life. So they are such great people. How could it be if their offspring, their children, had to be born in the highest level of sanctity? How could it be that Yitzchak's son should be instinctively drawn to idolatry? Where in the world did that come from? We learned in Tanya this past week. We learned that a child comes from the brain of their father, from the essence of their father. If the essence is 100% pure, where in the world is Esau coming from? How could it be that Esau should be born from these great, such a great tzaddik like Yitzchak? Okay, and it's true that he had free choice, and it's true that when he became an adult, it says that Esau departed and he separated himself from Yitzchak's domain. However, from before he was born, before he severed his connection with Yitzchak and Rivka, he was already drawn to idol worship in the womb. And how in the world is that possible? Okay, we asked 3 questions. We're going to start answering them, but we're going to answer it 3, 2, 1. We're going to go backwards to answer the questions. Okay. There's a concept called, there's a Maimar Chazal that we all know. It's called Maise Avos Siman Labanim. What does that mean? The actions of the patriarchs, the actions of our forefathers are a sign for their sons. And what does it mean? It's a sign, not just a sign, but it's Nesinas Kayach. Everything that the Jewish people are ever going to have to do throughout Jewish history, they get their strength to do it. The power to do it comes from our forefathers. All forms of Avodah you have to see it. You have to see a sign. You have to see it somehow in the actions of our forefathers. The Rambam writes a pamphlet of 8 prakim. It's called Shmeina Prakim, 8 prakim, as an introduction to his explanation on Pirkei Avos. And in the 6th parak of the Shmeina Prakim, the Rambam describes that there are 2 forms of Avodah. There's 2 different ways that we could serve God. One way is called Chassid HaMe'ula. Chassid HaMe'ula means the exemplary chassid. That is the goody-goody. The person that's going to sit and learn Torah, the person that's in the box, that is one that fits into the mold, into the box, into the structure. That is one way of serving Hashem. And then the Rambam says that there's another way of serving Hashem, and it is called someone who is kaivesh es yitzrei, someone who conquers his inclination, one who desires evil actions and conquers this inclination. So now we have a question. These are 2 different types of avodah. Chassid HaMe'ula, a chassid, a great, an exemplary chassid, and kaivesh es yitzrei, someone who conquers his evil inclination. But if there's 2 modes of service, how do we see this in our forefathers? Our forefathers, they were very much in the box. They didn't have an evil inclination to contend with. They didn't have a desire for bad things. So how could we say, Maisa Avasim Labanim, you're saying that there's 2 different modes of service. Where are you going to find that? Where do you see that in the Avodah of our forefathers because everything has to come from there. And not only, okay, so you could say there's avodah of being inclined to do something bad and controlling yourself. But guess what? We, the people that we are, not only do we have an inclination to do something bad and we conquer it, but sometimes we actually fall. And we need to do teshuvah. Not just we have an inclination for something bad, we actually do it. And if everything has to be ma'isa of a similar banim, how do we see a similar banim from our avos who never had an evil inclination to begin with? Why? Because they were such a complete chariot to God. So the answer is, okay, we could answer that there's two types of obstacles. There are inner obstacles, and then there's external obstacles. So it's true that our forefathers did not have any internal obstacles. They didn't have to deal with depression. They didn't have to deal with emotional wellness. They didn't have to deal with that kind of stuff. But they did have to deal with external obstacles. What's their external obstacles? Avram wants to teach the whole world that there's one God. There was a lot of pushback for that.
Yeah, they did have internal. And Yitzchak had Esav and Yaakov, so that was internal. That was depressing for them on the opposite.
It wasn't depressing.
Till Avram had his child, he believed, but he wasn't internal, right?
So it wasn't internal. It wasn't internal because Yitzchak saw Esav's potential.
Okay.
And Yitzchak loved Esav.
Maybe
So
that's where it comes in on the line.
and even if whatever it was, even if they didn't have children, there was no I. Being a Merkava means that there is no identity. It's not, I want to have a child and I don't have one yet. And I wasn't blessed with a child. I've been praying for 20 years and I don't have any children and I'm so depressed about it. And Hashem, where are you? There is no me. A Merkava means that there is no you. You're completely serving Hashem. You don't exist. It's not you have a will, you have a want, you have desire, you have there's no you. There's no I. So any obstacle was only external, whether it be Avraham having to deal with Pare when he took Sarah when he kidnapped Sarah, or whether it be Dinah and Shechem, or whatever. All these obstacles, they were all external obstacles. They weren't internal obstacles. So yes, they had to deal with external. They had to conquer the world. They had to. By us, we have an evil inclination. We have to conquer the evil inside of us. We have inner obstacles. So they had to conquer, they had things that they had to conquer on the outside. So you could say, yeah. They were tzaddikim. The definition of a tzaddik is someone that does not have a desire for anything that's evil. That's the definition of a tzaddik. They did not have a desire for anything. The Yetzer Hara came into
not necessarily evil, it's desire.
the inclination that came at Chedei Tzadas.
So what was the pendiciones? Because lustful is an internal, no? I don't know, to me, it's from your comfort zone, from your whatever, that's gonna work. But
It's more internal conflict. I'm not going to say it's a hard.
okay.
Okay, but being a merkava means that they will come 100% bittul. There was no me. There was no desire other than God. There couldn't have been. Yes. The Avis Merkava. They were tzaddikim, and they were pure, 100% pure. They were Merkava for Hashem. They did not have. It's not like Hashem wants ABC and I want something else. There was no. A Merkava means that you don't have a will of your own. You're so connected to Hashem that you don't have a will of your own, and for sure you don't have a will that's opposite what Hashem wants. Impossible.
How come it comes in a test? Isn't that a struggle?
So the why was it a test? Why was it a test? I'll take that Keda, that's the highest one, right? The test, first of all, he passed it. Second of all, the test was, it was all for Hashem's sake. Hashem, it doesn't make sense for you to make me slaughter my son, because then who's going to be the one to continue spreading monotheism in the world? It wasn't about his legacy, and we know that it wasn't. And the fact that he was able to, that he passed the 10th test proved that all the tests, it wasn't an inner struggle. It wasn't about him at all. It was all, and when it came to Lech Lecha, to leave Haran, what was the problem? He spent so much time with these people, teaching them about Hashem, to pick himself up and leave. Hashem, all the work that I did for you, what's going to be the continuation of that? Unless, he did take souls from Haran, he did take, but he did. It wasn't about himself, and therefore, although he spent 75 years of his life in Haran spreading, monotheism, when God said go, he went, because it wasn't about him. There was no argument. There wasn't, that's what it means that he passed the test. How was he able to pass the test? Because it wasn't about him. He didn't ask any questions because he was a Merkava. Okay. Okay, so our avos, even though they were a Merkava, their avoda also was divided into two categories. One is to ascend from level to level within holiness, and two is to overcome external obstacles. And the fact that they were able to overcome external obstacles provides the strength for us to conquer our inclination today. So you could say it's not fear. They didn't have any inner struggles, and we do. How could the actions of our patriarchs provide strength for our internal struggles? So explanation is the strength. This is like highlighted. The strength to fight our inclination, or for the strength for us to fight our inclination, demonstrates how strongly connected he is with Hashem. If you have no challenges, your connection to Hashem is weaker, okay? Than if you have challenges, because when you have challenges, your connection to Hashem is forced to come out, and and the fact that there's a challenge, the Yetzer Hara comes and says, say Lashon Hara, and you say no. You just strengthened and proved your connection to Hashem on such a higher level than if the Yetzer Hara wouldn't have come in the first place. The challenge and the obstacle brings out and demonstrates and shows and proves how strongly connected we are with Hashem. So the fact that the Avos only had external challenges, it doesn't matter. Where did the Avos get the strength? The source from where the Avos got the strength to fight the external challenges, from that source they gave us as an inheritance, and therefore we draw from the source, and we're also able to conquer our internal struggles because we're getting it from the source of where the Avos were able to conquer the external struggles. So this is what it means, Ma'aseh Avos Siman Labanim. The actions of the patriarchs are a sign for their sons. This strong bond with Hashem, which can never be weakened, was inherited from our Avos. And even though the patriarch's strength was practically expressed only in external obstacles, the source of the strength, this strong connection with Hashem, fortified their sons to overcome their inner obstacles. This is exactly what I just said. Yes, they only had external obstacles, but they drew strength from the source, and the source is what we inherited, and therefore we are able to express our super strong connection to Hashem that can never be severed. We could express that with our inner challenges as well, with our inner obstacles as well. And because our forefathers they also had two ways of serving Hashem, either by going higher and higher in spiritual heights, or by dealing with external obstacles. Therefore, it was possible for Yitzchak to have two children. One who expresses this avodah of reaching higher and higher heights in holiness, and one child whose nature is to conquer the world, to conquer the inclination, and to conquer the world. And this is what I said in the beginning of the class. When it says, Eile Toldos, these are the children of Yitzchak, what does it say in Rashi? Yaakov and Esav, who are discussed in the Parsha. In the Parsha, being a hunter, conquering the world is not a bad thing. Actually, it's a very, very, very good thing, positive thing, holy thing, incredible thing. It's even higher than sitting in the tent of the Torah all day. Conquering the world is an amazing, amazing feat. So it's true that since Yitzchak was a Merkava, Yitzchak was a vehicle for God, there was no act, he himself couldn't deal with or couldn't have within him any actual evil. But his son Esav, which was a child, which is an offspring of Yitzchak, by him, unfortunately, because of his free choice, it did actualize into actual evil. But in potential, to conquer the world is an incredible thing, and that's what we're all doing. That's what we're the week of the Kinos HaShluchim. This week is the Kinos. All the Shluchim will come together, and what are we doing? The Shluchim and every single Jew, we're conquering the world. Everything that we're dealing with, with everything we're dealing with, up until the murder of the shliach Tzvi Kogan, right? What is it? It's a war of good over evil. That's what it is. It's something much bigger, and therefore, these terrorists, Yimach Shemam, have to know that because they think that evil prevailed, they think that they won, but they didn't win. You know why? Because the shlucha, his wife, asked that every single person should take upon themselves to do 3 new things for the next 3 days. How much light, how many mitzvahs, how much tzedakah, how many more Shabbos candles, tefillin, kosher homes are going to happen as a result of his murder. Kara yesterday sent me a video. She went to college. She went onto the college campus with a group of people, and all the stickers that say "Free Palestine" on the college campus. Kara and her friends and her team, they covered every single sticker with Am Yisrael Chai, with pictures of hostages. Every single sticker of all their narishkeit was covered with Am Yisrael Chai. And Kara, what motivated Kara to do it? Kara, in the video, Kara, she says, I'm doing. Why are we doing this? We're doing this in memory of Tzvi Kogan. And Kara will share the video after the class. So Kara is a woman of action, and we all are. it's a war. It's and the same, and it's this week is also the week of Gavi, 16 years ago. Gavi and Rifki Holtzberg, same, and they're related to each other. It's unbelievable. But the same thing happened then. Every person comes on this earth to reveal godness on this earth. What takes us 120 years to do, Gabi and Rifki did in a couple of hours, a couple of days, and 1,000,000 times more than we could ever do. Because the whole world, every single Jew did something to bring more light because of that death, because of their deaths. So they may think that they won, but they didn't. They only encourage us to do. How do we fight the darkness? We say, you think you think that evil's gonna win? We're gonna do so many more mitzvahs, bring so much more light into this world. They will never win. They will never win. Okay.
There's the fear of, the potential, but also the downfall is what puts everyone, it's we're the system in the bottom.
There is a risk.
Because over here, we see it didn't work out.
You're right, and there is a risk. But you know what? Hashem believes in us. Because if there's going to be no bumps in the road, no challenges whatsoever, then there's no growth. We're going to stay exactly the same way.
I don't think people, the system doesn't believe in us. Fox doesn't believe in
This
us.
system doesn't believe because they're made up of us, individuals, who can't handle certain things.
So we know.
How do I start the change? Do I send
You're
you a
listen,
sign?
You listen, mother. I'm sure high school, you're doing system. It's more relevant. Nothing. So if you feel good enough to go to school, then you have your own system. Otherwise, it's this system, and it's faulty. But
The point is, when a child has a temptation or an inclination for the opposite, instead of coming down hard on them, we have to realize how special they are.
The responsibility as a parent of maybe I don't have to come down hard on my child, but at what point do I draw the line coming down hard and telling her that this is what we do in our house and this is the expectation of where we live? And if I know that she's doing a lot that maybe isn't a full lot, but in the society that we live in it is, or there's that fine line of expectation and demand.
Right, but you have to realize it's an expectation because it's you and you expect it, and why are you expecting it? I definitely agree with that. I think that.
So if the society we live in demands a certain standard, even if it's not a level standard, but it's a level above.
Right, so I think you have to find, as an observer, I think you have to find the right explaining to them. I remember some of my friends became non-observant. They said, oh, religion was forced down our throats. I said, really, when you learned how to eat with a spoon and fork, was it forced down your throat? No, there are certain things that you do. You say Moda'ani because that's what it is. You say, when do you start washing the kid's hand? What's it, forced down your throat that you wash someone's hand? It becomes habit. You look at so many people come out of the bathroom and don't wash their hands. Don't you look at the non-Jewish person and think, how come they don't know to wash their hands? So if you find a way to incorporate it as a positive on why we are teaching you how to eat with a spoon and a fork, with a napkin on your lap, with your feet down at the table. I once listened to something and this girl said, every time they were little and the father would say, sneeze, sneeze, sneeze. She said, so my kid jumps around and I say, you're a princess. How does a princess sit? Instead of yelling, sneeze, sneeze, sneeze at a funeral. So that's the kind of how you incorporate your rules and demands. And also, if you keep by them, if you're wishy-washy, like someone once said, if you threaten and then you don't go through with the threat, they know how mommy said,
I
you
think
know?
it's different what she's saying. There's some things that are.
Some things are so, right,
No, and
because,
then there's some things that are
right,
society.
but that's in
says-
every society. Otherwise, that's what's happening to the Goyish world. They're cuckoo already because everything became, it's about you, you. When you're 10 and 12 and 14, it's not about you. It's about the general public. How are you gonna be an influence to other people? You have to take it as a positive. How are you gonna be influential to the other people? Don't always blame it, oh, society wants this. You're the society. You could make it happen at 14, at 15, at 17. So if they see that, they're so important. They're so important. Otherwise, you look at this hefkerus, that's not normal.
So I want to tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. There was someone that came by there was someone that was becoming from, and he was becoming from, and he one day he told his rabbi, I have to tell you, I have a deep dark secret. I'm engaged to a non-Jewish woman, so therefore, as much as I'm trying to do more and more, I'm limited. This is so. And I said, don't tell me. He says, my parents took me to every single rabbi. No one could convince me to break up with her. There's nothing. There's nothing to do. And so the Chabad rabbi says, just go to the Rebbe. And I'm telling you, it's not going to help. It's not going to work. So many rabbis tried to talk to me. It's not going to work. Anyway, finally he came to the Rebbe. And he said to the Rebbe, I have a problem. I'm very interested in becoming from. I'm interested in Yiddishkeit. But what should I do? I'm engaged to a non-Jewish girl. And the Rebbe looked at him. And the Rebbe said, I'm jealous of you. For you to break up with this girl is something that the Rebbe, as great as he is, would never, ever have that challenge. But for this guy who loves his girlfriend so much, and to break that engagement with her, what else? From God's perspective, what's greater than that? Hashem wants our teshuvah. Hashem wants us to overcome our struggles. That is even more dear to him than someone who has no struggles and who is sitting and learning Torah all day. And you know what? It actually says this in the Medrash. I'm not making it up.
What
was the end of the story?
I'm sorry, our system does not do that. I just went through a lot of get-headed with my 17-year-old. I can tell you 20 yeshivas, okay? Your ear's gonna stand up. This one wants a large couple. This one wants a big pants. This one wants a skinny pants. This one is out at the curfew. We're not taking them. This one wants 20 grand. This one wants 60 grand. So I'm confused right now.
Okay, so I'm going to read it from the Medrash, okay? Okay.
And now he got in, right?
Oh, yeah, he's in.
Okay.
He's,
So
he's,
you overcame this struggle to a certain degree.
He's like in, like, there's doors and windows. Oh, okay, everything's fine.
We're not gonna fix it for the system, that's the problem.
Right, so that's what we're saying, we're not fixing this.
We can,
Can't.
it's bigger than us, it's bigger than us.
But we have to start with ourselves. How we view ourselves. How we view our children. When I fail in something, instead of saying to myself, I am so bad. I am so bad. Instead of saying that, we say, I have this challenge that Hashem gave me. And if I'm able to overcome it, do you know what a nachas that can bring to Hashem? It's a whole different ball game. And don't just tell me your children. Start with yourself. How do we look at ourselves on a day that, from the simplest things, from the supper's not ready on time, and I could say, I'm such a bad mother. Why couldn't I make supper an hour ago? Why was I distracted with my phone? Right? And put ourselves down. Or we could say, yes, the phone is a distraction. And you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to put my phone aside from this and this time or whatever it is. and overcome that. And what a great nachas, and what great pleasure does that bring to, it's like a seesaw. It's like a seesaw. When you, and this is in Tanya, when you say no to the evil inclination, you know what happens? Hashem's name goes flying up. Hashem's nachas goes flying up. When every time you say no, the more you say no, the more happy Hashem is. And it says, this is in brackets, but I'm going to read it anyway. The Medrash declares, okay, hold on to your seats. Hashem is saying, I do not know which one of them I want. The actions of these, the actions of the wicked, or the actions of these, the actions of the righteous. This is puzzling. What is behind the supposition that Hashem might want the actions of the wicked? How can you say that Hashem wants the actions of the wicked? The explanation is the Hashem's desire for the actions of the wicked refers to his desire for those who transgress to conquer those actions. Avodah of teshuvah. The reality of the actions of the wicked is not the evil, God forbid, but his desire for the teshuvah that arises through it. Hashem wants the teshuvah. Hashem wants the teshuvah that's going to come. That's going to come from the fact that the person fell. So when someone falls, we have to realize that their challenge Hashem gave them, it's not because they're bad, but rather Hashem is waiting for their teshuvah, and their teshuvah is so valuable to Hashem. We have to empathize with our children who struggle. We have to empathize. We have to understand where they're coming from, and realize that, you know what, they're on a higher level than us.
With this perspective, we should almost say with the children that are giving us the hardest time, that they're going to be our biggest.
It's very, very hard.
Yes.
So stuff against their places. People just believe in them. It's very hard for our years in the system. But those kids are the most challenging and not fitting to the box and fighting it well. Those are the kids who are going places. When they are out, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we get the things on that.
So then you pass the system of those, whatever it is,
And it's the channel.
And sometimes it's not even their problem, like they didn't get into school, they were kids. So you have to tell them, yeah, you're good, this is what Hashem wants.
When I was in school, we have to yes. And I want to tell you something. When I went to school, my grade was not the best grade. And you know what? The biggest troublemakers, the kids that were kicked out every day from class, you know where they are today? They're on campus shlichus, conquering the world, because that's what the Rebbe did. He took the strugglers, and what did he do? He put them on college campus. And because they understand the struggles of the college kids, that's why they're able to bring them to Yiddishkeit. Someone who's so naive and who has no inclination for anything, they're not going to be able to speak the language of the college kids.
Basically, we needed a Esav and we needed
Exactly. Listen to this. The fact that Esav's natural inclination towards idol worship as a fetus, and even after being born, was only to enable Esav to carry out the avodah of conquering the evil inclination. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to materialize into him murdering and idolatry and adultery. It didn't have to materialize into that. His avodah was to conquer the world, and yes, there is you could have a inclination to it, but you have to conquer it. You have to conquer. You don't have to just because your Yetzer Hara says speak lashon hara doesn't mean that you have to open the door and allow that to happen. So his avodah was to conquer the world, and there's a big world out there, and that was the task that Esav was given, and therefore, even from the womb, his nature, there's nothing wrong with having a nature for temptation, for other stuff, for evil stuff. The temptation for evil is not evil. The temptation for evil is so that you could conquer it and give Hashem such tremendous nachas and pleasure and bring holiness and godliness and light onto this world. Yes. Excellent. So practically speaking, okay, we're going to answer that. Okay, so practically speaking, in order for us to conquer the world, we need strength, and we need the strength of Torah. And that's why ultimately Yaakov had to get the brachos. Our avodah is we have to be anchored in Torah. We have to come here to the class and sit and learn every single day. And sechitas, we have to be plugged in 24/7. We need to be plugged into Torah and anchored so that we should have the kayach to conquer the world. And that's why ultimately Yaakov got the brachas, but I jumped the gun. Okay. So now we're going to understand. Now we're going to go back to question number 2. So question number 3, we asked, how could it be that Yitzchak is a Markava, is a chariot to God? How could it be that he should have a son like Yitzchak? A son like Esav. And we answered, yes, Yitzchak is a Markava, is a vehicle to God, but there's 2 modes of serving God. There's going higher and higher in spiritual worlds, and there's also this concept of conquering the world, the external, the obstacles, and therefore he was able to have a son, Esav, because Esav is one of the modes of serving God, which is to conquer to conquer the world and to deal with the obstacles. Question number 2: why is it that Esav would be interested in Olam Haba? Why couldn't he just be satisfied with the potato chips or with the cookies? Why does each one need the other one? And the answer is that Esav understood that yes, for him the primary is Olam Hazeh, this world, but even Esav knew that in order for him to conquer this world, he needs Olam Haba. He needs Torah. He can't do it, but he can't do it without Torah, and therefore he had to fight for the world to come. And Yaakov, who was inclined to the world to come, he also knew that you can't just sit and learn Torah. You also need, yes, learning Torah is the ikar, is the primary thing for Yaakov, but you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to accomplish what Hashem wants if you're just sitting and learning Torah. You need to elevate the world. You need to elevate the world. And therefore, each one for Esav, the primary is Olam Hazeh, and for Yaakov, primary is Olam Haba. But each one needs the other world also in order to get their job done. Each method of avodah includes aspects of the other. Which means we can't just sit and learn Torah our whole life and lock ourselves up and learn Torah our whole life. We also have to go out into the world and be a light to our fellow brothers and sisters. We can't just worry about ourselves. Absolutely, that's what it means. Yes. In order for the avodah to reach ultimate perfection, the tent dweller, the one who sits and learns, he has to go out into the world as well to reach his perfection. This world is also for the sake of the world to come. And the world to come is for the sake of the avodah in this world. So it goes both ways. There's 2 types of avodah. There's going higher and higher in holiness, and there's conquering the world. And each avodah is not complete without the other. And therefore, each one was fighting for both worlds. And now we're going to go back to our first question is, how could we say that Esav actually grew, that Esav actually matured spiritually? And the answer is yes, he actually did become spiritually mature. Avram did influence Esav to actually conquer his evil inclination. Until he was 13, Abraham was helping him realize how special he was, despite the fact, because Avram helped him realize, Avram believed in him. Avram said, you have a tendency, you have an evil inclination that's telling you that's pushing you towards evil stuff. Let's celebrate that. You're amazing. I see your struggle. Your struggle is so valuable in the eyes of God. And that's why for 13 years, Avram, because of Avraham, now, Avraham, now put yourself in there. Because of you as a mother, because you believe in your child. Esav had someone that believed in him, that said, you can do this. You're great. You're wonderful. You're amazing. You have such power that you could conquer the Yetzer Hara. But then Avram passed away. And then he stopped believing in himself. And then he fell. As parents, we have to be the Avram Avinu. We have to believe in our children. We have to say, I see your struggle, but that makes you greater. That makes you even more amazing. And yes, it's hard, but could you imagine? Could you imagine for someone to break an engagement with a girl who's not Jewish when they really, really love them? What that does in heaven? My husband, he for 2 years, he did a C-Team extreme travel camp with teenagers, and they came to Hollywood. And the Chabad rabbi in Hollywood, he spoke to them. I know what he said to them. These are teens. After he spoke to them, he said, every single one of you, walk over to the Aron Kodesh and pray to God that he should give you the strength to marry a Jewish girl. And they got back on the buses, and one boy texted his girlfriend and broke up with her. They went to the Aron Kodesh with their caps and the way their jeans and everything else, like this, and they davened.
I'm also hearing like an acceptance, because you know how we're talking about society and like look inwards. So if we think that there's only one path, then it's very hard to accept that our children are struggling. But if we understand that
there are two paths.
Multiple ways.
Yes, yes. Exactly, and Esav's path to connect to Hashem is not through the path of sitting and learning Torah. It's a different path.
I'm young, I'm done. I've done my pieces. I've done my
To be a hunter, to be a man of the field, is a positive thing.
It's so funny, and then I used to say I was absent that day.
Guys, I really believe, I believe. We've had that, we've had that system many years, I believe. There's a lesson.
Okay, so now we're changing our belief system, guys, okay? Guess what? To be a hunter and to be a man of the field is something positive. And in order to conquer the concealment of the field, he had to be a hunter. He needed the deception in order. How are we meant to elevate this physical world? You know, for the neshama to eat and to drink is not natural. But the neshama has to eat and drink, has to put on physical garments, has to trick the physical world so that it can make a bracha and eat it and elevate it. You have to be mislabish. You have to put on the clothing. What did Yaakov have to do? He had to put on Esav's clothing. You have to be mislabish. You have to put yourself into you have to put on those clothes. If a Chabad rabbi came to college campus, and forget about college campus, if a Chabad rebbitzin comes to advertises a Torah class, you know what? Not everyone's going to come. But if you say, we're gonna do sushi in the sukkah, we're gonna do jewelry making, a spa night, whatever, okay, then that's the clothing. That's the clothing. They come in for the spa night, and then you give them Shabbos candles. You used to give them Dvar Torah. This is what it means. In this world, you have to meet the person where they are. You have to speak to them in their language.
My sister and mom went to your niece, I think,
Jersey.
yeah, Jersey, and it was her first time going to Chabad, and the Lord was sound bathing,
Sound bath.
a sound bath, yeah.
So I'll tell you. Yeah. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you this. There are people in our Chabad house. Someone that actually became from because he liked my challah and my brownies. That's what brought him to Chabad, the challah and the brownies. And there was another kid, he loved those brownies, and that's what brought them to our house on Friday night for the food. And you know what? Our pediatrician, my husband was doing a fundraiser for a fundraising campaign. So he called the pediatrician and he asked him if he could be a matcher for $5,000. So he said, I'll have to speak to my wife. I'll get back to you tomorrow. The next day, he calls my husband and he says, I'll give you $5,000 on one condition. So at that time, we were doing the legal battle with the whole thing. So we thought, what's the condition? Don't use the $5,000 for the legal battle. Use it for matzah. Use it for good stuff, for Hanukkah menorahs. He said, on one condition, if I could have more of your wife's challah.
Hey, I need to get that recipe. So then whoever I invite, I'll know that I'll have an impression.
So the point is that you have to speak to people in the language that what talks to them. Okay. So a soul must engage in this world and eat and drink and go on vacation and everything else that we do. Why? We trick the world. We trick the world, and on vacation we do muftzayim, and on vacation we find another woman and we give her Shabbos candles. We clothe ourselves in the physical world so that we can elevate the world. But once Avram passed away and his influence ended, then Esav departed. Esav stopped believing in himself.
Esav was making trouble, and that's why Hashem took Avram from the world.
Hashem took Avram from the world so that he wouldn't see. Right. But
this is Yitzchak. Yitzchak was his father.
No, but Avram was the grandfather.
Yeah.
And he lost 5 years of his life so that he shouldn't see what Esav is doing.
And what about Yitzchak? Yitzchak died much later?
So basically the second Esav departed. Avram passed away. I'm sorry, yeah. The second Avram, the second Esav departed, Avram passed away. So you shouldn't see it.
Esav did the stuff he shouldn't already before Yaakov got the blessings.
That's because we always looking unfortunate, not another shot. That's why I said, out of the door.
I'm not addressing that part about Rivka loving.
Okay, so we're almost there. Okay, so now we answer our 3 questions, but now we're gonna answer, and I gave this away already, but now we're gonna answer why did Yaakov end up with the brachas, and we said that so we have to answer that in order for us to be able to actually conquer the world, we need the strength of Torah to anchor us. Okay? And we have to know that after we have the avodah of Yaakov, of Torah, we cannot stop there. The 10th dweller must extend into the field to capture the world and to transform them into delicacies for Hashem. Why did Yitzchak ask for delicacies, for 2 goats? Because there's 2 types of avodah. There's the sweet avodah of the tzaddik, and then there's the savory food, the sushi, the savory food, the pickles that Hashem wants, which is the avodah of the Baal Tshuva. And that's in Parachav Zayin of Tanya. Mirza Hashem will get to that. Okay. I love it. We have to be hunters. We have to wear the mundane garments and understand to understand the society, the boots, the clothes, everything. And this is what the Rebbe says, that we have to speak to the Jew in his language. And it says as follows: we have to encourage the child with things that he likes in keeping with his age, with nuts, meaning with sweets. And when he gets older, with nice shoes. After his intellect develops, encourage him with money, with the expectation of receiving honor. All this is distasteful, yet necessary due to man's deficient intellect. Yes, it's distasteful, but if your kid wants white boots with laces and whatever they want, understand where they're coming from. And you know what? Speak to them in that language. And tell them that when you overcome your Yetzer Hara, you are giving Hashem white boots. You know, the $200, $300, $400 white boots that you're drooling over. That's what you're giving to Hashem when you're conquering your evil inclination. That's the kind of gift that you're giving Hashem. And if you have to promise them boots in order that they should, do whatever they need to do, then go for it. Go for it. Meet them where they're at. If it's a candy, if it's whatever it is, meet them where they're at according to their age. Yes. Yes. Yes, it's part of there's 2 modes of avodah, and if you think that we could just even for the one and the way it actually is, the healthy way of today is that we have to sit and learn and get and be on fire from Torah, and then with the strength of Torah, we have to go out into the world and meet the world where they are.
Don't say you can cry. You're saying you have to go.
You have to go. You have to go. You can't. Your avodah of sitting and learning a Torah is not complete if you're just by yourself, elevating yourself to the holiest to the holiest rung. It's not holy. It's not holy if it's just about you. Okay, and now by carrying out this avodah of the offspring of Yitzchak, which is both types of avodah mentioned above, we will very soon merit to witness the time when the Jewish people will declare to Yitzchak, "For you are our patriarch." This will come about with a true and complete redemption by our righteous Mashiach. Okay, but I didn't forget about your question. Okay. Rabbi Y.Y. Jacob, it doesn't say it in this teaching, but Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson says this. I have to find it. But what happens? Now Esav is very angry, and rightfully so. And he wants to kill his brother. And what happens? I want to see if I can find it. I found it, guys. Okay. What happens? Yaakov's life's in danger. Esau wants to kill him. You know what Sarah did when Yitzchak was in danger? They sent Yishmael away. What does Rivka and Yitzchak decide to do? They send Yaakov away. And then it says, Pasuk Hey, Vayishlach Yitzchak es Yaakov v'yelech Padan Aram. Yitzchak sent Yaakov to go to Padan Aram. El Lavan, the Lavan ben Besuel Arami, Achi Rivka, the brother of Rivka, Aim Yaakov the Esav, the mother of Yaakov and Esav. Good morning. Now you're going to tell me that Rivka is the mother? Now you're going to tell me that Rivka is the mother of Yaakov and Esav? This isn't the pasuk. And you know what Rashi says? Aim Yaakov Esav, the mother of Yaakov and Esav. Eini Yedea Ma Melamdenu. I do not know what it teaches us. Rashi's not embarrassed to say, I don't know what it teaches us. Yeah. I'll pass it to you, page 304. Okay, let's discuss this. Okay, let's discuss this. Rivka, you think Rivka wasn't a mother to Esav. She betrayed him, right? That's what we think.
Says she didn't love. She says she loved Yaakov and he said love, but she didn't love him. Says she loves Yaakov, Yitzchak loves Esau. Right.
Okay, so let's see.
Maybe more. Maybe.
What does this teach us? What does this teach us?
Better with, the father, the mother.
She was the mother of Yaakov and Esav. Do you know what she did? Do you know the sacrifice that she did? She loved Yaakov. She sent him away for 20 years and she never saw him again. So that Esav could be next to Yitzchak.
That's true.
Because Yitzchak loved Esav and Esav loved Yitzchak. She said it's better for Esav to stay home than for Yaakov to stay home. She wanted to nurture. She understood. She understood Esav. She understood his challenges. And she wanted that Yitzchak. Why didn't Rivka have a conversation with Yitzchak? Sarah had a conversation with Abraham. She said, Yishmael must go. Rivka did not have that conversation. Rivka understood everything very well. She never told Yitzchak. He's no good. Wake up. And Yitzchak was he wasn't, just because he was a big Tyler in Torah, he wasn't oblivious. They knew and they saw everything. They knew Esav's struggle. And Rivka wanted that Esav, who's struggling, should be next to Yitzchak, who could truly, truly understand him. She knew what he needed. She didn't send him away. She did not send him away. And therefore it says, you think that she wasn't, that she favored Yaakov. Aim Yaakov Esav. She was both of their mothers. And the fact that it says, it's not that Chas v'shalom, we're smarter than Rashi and we figured it out, God forbid. No, Rashi's telling us something. In life, we have to know that sometimes we don't know. We don't know why this kid has this challenge and why that kid has that challenge and why this kid is perfect and that kid is, where did that kid come from? We learned this past week in Tanya. What's chachma? Hayach ma. It's a power, but ma. What is it? I don't know. It's elusive. Kayach ma. Ma. What does it mean? Take yourself, put it aside. It's not about me and my nachas and what are other people going to say about me and my family? No. Sometimes we have to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why this is my challenge. I don't know why this is my child's challenge. I don't know. But to have that humility, to have that openness, I might not understand. This child is failing. I don't see how he's doing teshuvah. I don't see the end of the story. How could you give me this challenge? What am I supposed to do? I have no idea. I have no clue. That's life. That is part of life. Eini yodea. Sometimes we have to say, Eini yodea, I don't know. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why that happened. I don't know. So I'll just end with this. Okay, the class is over. I'm now internalizing it, but I just want to tell you something that I went to Shabbaton this week. And at 4 p.m., maybe it was a little later than that, there was a panel of a women's panel. And they asked questions and everyone has to give an answer. So the question was, and I was there, and there was two teachers and one person who organized the whole Shabbaton. And the question was, what challenge did you have and how did you overcome it? So everyone was very quiet. So I said, okay, I'll start. So I spoke about the challenge of coming on Sichos. We didn't know anyone. We had no money. I didn't understand why I'm here. was adult community, no kids. I wanted this, and this is what it was, and I didn't understand why there was no growth and why am I here. That was the challenge that I described, and I said ultimately how I overcame it is that every week I write a letter to on my phone. I write a letter to the Rebbe. I ask for blessings for everything that to give over all the challenges and realize that I'm not here on my own, but rather I'm an emissary of the Rebbe, and it's with the Rebbe's koiches and etc. That was and it was a good thing that I started first because I would have never been able to open up my mouth after the other women shared their challenges and their struggles. So one teacher, she was crying. She said, I never spoke about this to students before. She said, my challenge was to grow my family. She says, I'm married for 18 years. I imagine that I have a large family, and I know she comes from a very large family herself. She's married for 18 years. She has a 14-year-old son, an 8-year-old son, and now Baruch Hashem, she's expecting. She says, that was my challenge. And she says, the challenge is you thought life is going to be one way to show up fully for what Hashem planned. Any idea? Do we know why one person is blessed with a lot of children, has no issue having kids, and the next person wants children so badly and have a hard time? That was one woman. And then the next one, your heart could literally break. She's organizing the Shabbaton, okay? She has a 6-year-old child with special needs. The child, everyone who's born with lungs, our lungs are connected to our earway, to ear pipe. Her child's lungs were connected to the esophagus. And she was born, every person has a heart with one arch. Okay, I don't really know what that means. Her daughter was born with a heart with 2 arches. And she asked the doctor, what do I do about the second arch? Doctor said, it does nothing, just leave it. Anyway, yeah, this woman is a constant smile on her face. And the child wasn't at the Shabbaton because it was a special needs Shabbaton, the same Shabbos that the child went to. She has to go every few months to Ohio, to ICU, for tests, I don't know, every 2 months. I don't know how often. And she has another 3 children after that. She didn't just say, oh, I have a special needs child. Okay, that's it. No, she continued to grow her family. And she says, like, this is what she says. She says, my challenge is that I have thoughts that come to my mind, and the thoughts say, it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be like this. And then I fight those. She says, your thoughts aren't you. I fight those thoughts and I say, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. So I'll give you 2 examples. They had to remove a lung. Problem with removing a lung is that you need to put a spacer because otherwise the heart will move. Okay, I don't know all the details. Problem is that most of the time the body rejects the spacer, and your whole life you have to deal with this, deal with the fact that the body's rejecting the spacer. The lung had to go, but the doctor said to her, because your daughter has a heart with 2 arches, the heart will never move. You don't need another spacer. You don't need a spacer. So here, this arch that wasn't supposed to be, was supposed to be. And then she shared another thing. She said her daughter is 5 years old, very, very cute, but doesn't listen to anybody, doesn't listen to the therapist. Everyone's trying to get her to walk. She is not walking. She's crawling on the floor at the age of 5. Until one day, she tried to climb out of a crib. She fell and she broke her arm. Now, is that supposed to happen? Terrible. On top of everything else, everything, she broke her arm. She broke her arm. She couldn't crawl. She started to walk. That's what she was sharing. So are there challenges? And I was like, I'll take any day. I'll drive an hour, over an hour to school, an hour and 40 minutes back from Cheder. No problem with no problem. I'll never complain again, But we challenges. It's in order. We don't ask for challenges, but the challenges is in order for us to prove our unbreakable, strong, everlasting connection to Hashem. And it's expressed when we overcome the challenges, when the thoughts say it's not supposed to happen, and we overcome that and we say, you know what? it's supposed to happen. It's not by mistake. There's a plan. Thank you all for taking this journey.
Oh, a whole, definitely a whole new level. Hello.